Hi, Justine. How are
Hi,
you?
my Rachel. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this with me. So sweet of you. How are you? How are you this morning?
I don't know. I'm just very cold. It's very cold.
It's
You're not even wearing a jacket. I think where you are is probably warmer.
yeah, it is. I mean Nakuru.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah.
that's great to hear that it's warmer in Nakuru than here. So yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. There's a little bit of sun. So
Mm.
anyway, you guys with me, I have Justine Wanda. You're going to love this lady. She is so witty, she's smart, and she's funny. She's the type of person that is going to crack your ribs and teach you something at the same time. So, Justine, how about you like introduce yourself and like tell us what you do with like fake walk with Justine? Yeah.
Um. So my name is Justine. I'm a stand-up comedian. I'm a writer. Um, I'm a satire show creator. So my show Fake Work with Justine is a satire show. So it basically combines like the news of the day with comedy. So because most of the times I realize me too, I have this problem where like when you read the news it's very sad, it's very annoying, like you start yelling at your phone or like wherever it is you're watching it from. So I like wanted a way that people could consume the news without necessarily having to kind of like be overwhelmed by it. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm a big fan of like a lot of satire creators from around the world, from like Irish writers to
Mm-hmm.
uh, like XYZ here. There's
Mm.
a Zimbabwean, I'm forgetting the name. Like I look at like satire from around the continent and around the world, and like I just try to like create my own version of that. Yeah.
Oh, I'll tell you for a fact that it is so interesting to watch how you do it. Like, I think I've watched every one of your content pieces. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, yes.
That
So,
means so much to me.
yeah, it's so actually I'm a person that doesn't watch news. Like I don't watch news at all at all. So my information comes from like Twitter and like for places like your space. So I was wondering, so why the name fake woke? Like what is fake woke? What is woke?
I don't think I'm using that name. I should have probably not used that name when I created the show. Because, like, right now, the word woke on the internet has just become like a whole different monster. Like,
Mm,
in the beginning, when I came across this name, it was like it has African American origins where they were like for a long time people didn't have access to information about stuff that actually harmed them. So the person who came up with this term wanted to
mm,
like make people more aware of like just how the system is and like how they can interact with the system better if they know what was happening around them. So that's the origin of the term. That's what I thought my show is going to be, but I said fake work because this is not actual news. So for like a lot of people who are confused about it and they're like, oh, so this is a show that's news, but it's also humor. So you're
mm.
watching typically like fake news because no one reads the news while joking about the news.
Mm. Yeah, but I feel like the way you use it, it's in a kind of a beautiful way. Because when I watch your content, after watching that piece, I do feel a little bit woke. Like I know some extra information. Like I can understand what
Yeah.
is going on, like behind the scenes. So
Mhm.
I've watched so a lot of your content because I found you out through Fake Work with Justine. I think it was on TikTok.
Yeah.
I was wondering, so
TikTok.
you're, yeah, TikTok fans. And then I stalked you in like IG and then found out that you have YouTube and everything.
Mhm.
So you criticize our government very heavily. You so first of all, my question is why this type of content? Like what is your inspiration? What motivated you to start this kind of, the political scene and everything, especially because it's like a male dominated field type
Mhm.
and like you're a girl and what made you get into that?
I don't know if there's anything that holds anyone back. If you love something, you're never getting into any space thinking, oh, there's other people here who probably don't look like me. You're just like trying to be the funniest person, right? It's the same everywhere, like with every single profession, I believe. Like if you're
Mm-hmm.
in the if like you're a lawyer, if you're any of those like old professions, and maybe you're not like largely represented, you just try to be the best, right? Because you're
Yeah,
trying to compete in a field with people who are your equals. There are people who are really good. There are people who are very creative. They're very learned. They're willing to do the best, right? So regardless of whatever field, I feel like everyone is always trying to do that. So when I got
yeah,
into comedy, it's the same thing. Because like people want to just laugh at your jokes because you're a woman. You get, if it's not funny, it's not
yeah.
funny.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
in my head, I was like, every day I just want to make sure that I'm doing such a good job. And also I think with any field too, you can't get comfortable. Like you have to keep learning, you have to keep growing, you have to keep like
Yeah.
figuring a way out. Because like sometimes people kind of can reverse engineer how you do your work, and then they're like, it's gotten boring. So how do you
Mm.
maintain like a new
That.
creative, fresh way to like do it, and like it's funny and engaging at
Yeah.
the same time? So I think that's how
Uh,
I approach my work. Yeah.
oh, so like you like politics and like you're a comedian. It's natural.
Yes. So
Uh,
you said I criticize the government heavily. I actually do not criticize the government. I just point out
okay.
an obvious
Uh,
what is it called? Um I'm forgetting the word. Like either a hypocritical thing that they did, or like something that they failed to do. Because that's criticism is like when I come and say, you guys had to do this and this and this, you promised this and this and this, you failed to do this and this. That's not what I'm doing. I'm usually like,
mhm,
in January you made
mhm,
this promise, it's
mhm.
August and you guys haven't delivered.
So like you're just putting it out there for people like this and
Yes.
this happened. It's a fact. Do whatever you're going to do with it. I have given you the information.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
exactly.
okay.
Mm.
Okay, so now talking about the government and the Finance Bill 2023,
Yeah.
what do you, because what are your thoughts on it? Because me personally, I have a job and like when you look at all these tax zenye zinaongezewa, I'm like, where I cannot afford to lose a shilling from my
Hmm.
sleep and everything. So talk to us, talk more about it for the people who are like very ignorant and don't know whatever it is.
Okay. So, first of all, I think every government is always intending on kind of doing the right thing to make sure that the
Mm-hmm.
economy progresses or whatever. I'm not going to take that away from them. But
Yeah.
this finance bill is coming at a time when people are still recovering from COVID. People are still trying to like keep their businesses afloat, their job. Like people are trying to figure out how to get it into employment, or even if you're in employment, you're figuring out how to like pull your money and like invest it and make sure that you can take care of like if you have kids
Mm-hmm.
or even just
Mm-hmm.
yourself. So when you have let's take for instance of how the paycheck looks right now, where
Mm-hmm.
you pay for NHIF, you pay for NSSF, you pay what is it called, there's another, you pay as you earn, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're paying pay as you earn at a certain percentage right now, it means the your net salary is something very particular,
Very
right? You know
small.
your gross salary is
Mm-hmm.
something particular. The moment they start
Mm-hmm.
removing more, it means you have to do like a workaround around
Mm-hmm.
your expenses. Because
Yeah.
unfortunately, with the cost of living going up, the moment you pay more taxes, the government is not covering you for your groceries, for school fees, if
Mm,
you're paying school fees,
mm,
for your
yeah.
transport. It's not covering those things. So if you're paying more in taxes, it means you have less money to work with, right? And
Yes.
when you walk into a supermarket to buy stuff for yourself or for your house, or like you're doing a little shopping for your mom, you're like, okay, maybe this time I can't get this thing or I can't get this thing. So the quality of your life reduces, right? Because maybe
Yeah.
you can't
And
afford the things that you want. And you can't also you can't go to the government and tell them, you people can't take all my money. You have to leave
mm,
something for me. That's not what's
mm,
going to happen. And then
mm,
most people argue that even when they increase taxes, it's not taking too much from your paycheck, right? Like you still
mhm.
have money that you can use. But if you think about, if the government is taking 1,000 more from your paycheck this month, how much is that by the end of the year?
Yeah, that's a lot.
You
And
get,
then
it's 1,000 every
yeah,
month, but it's 1,000 every other month. It's not going to
month.
stop.
Yeah. And I was like, we are just from COVID. People are still recovering from COVID because people lost businesses, people became unemployed, and then you want us to start paying tax. I saw that even people who are unemployed have to pay tax. I'm like, this is
Yes.
mind blowing. So but at the same time, when I think about like the president, it makes me feel like kind of 50-50 kwa sababu vitu kwa ground, like with all these policies and whatever, I'm like, this government, it sucks. But
Yeah.
then
Mm-hmm.
when you look at our president, like internationally, people are saying, oh, the spirit of Muammar Gaddafi is alive in Ruto. Like when you see the way he's ruffling feathers at the AU and like
Yeah.
all these speeches he's giving everywhere, you're like, he looks like he's being progressive. What do you think about that? Like, for the people who think that that counts for something, like when you listen to his speeches, he's like, telling them that they have to like revisit the financial systems of between Africa and like Europe and whatever. Does that count for something? What can I make sense of all of that?
I'll say this is something that's happened in a bunch of different countries. Zambia's president also had this beautiful um, engagement. I think it's one of those Security Council meetings or something. I don't remember what it was. He also had this whole monologue where he was answering a question about how there's such a dismissal of like African contributing to like the climate change action and all these things, and like how we are being left behind because we're not in the conversation. That's a very nice sentiment. Yeah. What's his name, Ghana's president, when he started out, there's a
Mm,
time there was this viral clip of him actually attacking President Macron from France, saying that you guys can't
okay.
come here and act like you're better than us, and like you,
Yeah.
it's like you're taking our money, but you wouldn't even let like people can't even immigrate easily, or like our resources are not used in Africa, they're used somewhere else. It was a really
Mm,
powerful speech. Same thing with what Ruto is doing right now. But
yeah.
when you look at
Mhm.
Zambia, they took, I think, a loan from the IMF or something, and like there's something called austerity measures, where if you take the
Mhm.
loan, they tell you to put some things in place so that public expenses, like stuff that would go into healthcare, education. See how funding for universities has been reduced by our country. It's the same
Mm,
thing that happened to Zambia. In Ghana, they have the same issue. Like their public
mm,
expenses, where things that will help citizens have been reduced so that money can go into paying debt. Same with
mhm.
what is happening here. They were like, the IMF can, sorry, there's some noise outside. They were like, the IMF can give you 16 billion this quarter, 12 billion the next quarter, whatever. But you guys have to increase your tax base. That's why unemployed people are making all
Mm,
this. They're making unemployed people pay all these ridiculous amounts of money. Like you're telling someone to
uh-huh.
get 1,000 shillings for the housing levy every month. That
I
person
know.
probably does not have a source of income enough for them to
Mhm.
spare 1,000 shillings every month,
Mm. Yeah.
right? So as
Yes.
much as
Mhm.
he's making big speeches and it's CG the spirit of
Mm,
Pan-Africanism, and yes, we need more better restructuring of like financial institutions from the outside, But that cannot happen if our backyards are burning. If people can't build their economies, if Kenyans can't build their
Yeah,
economies, that just means there's no way Kenyans can progress, right?
I
Because
get. Mm-hmm.
yeah, because like right now, one of the weirdest things that this government is advertising is jobs abroad, right? If people are going to work abroad, who remains here?
You wonder.
Because
Plus,
then if no
mm,
one is remaining here, then it means it's very hard to build this economy. um,
yeah.
if people who are starting businesses have to pay their employees housing levy, those people are going to move to a place that has better measures for them to be
Yeah,
like,
and better
okay,
pay.
yes, because then right now, if an employee had budgeted for 50,000 to pay one employee, if it's distributed all round, with all this housing levy and all these taxes going up, it means their labor resource is more, so they have to pay more for their company to continue running, and it
Yeah,
becomes
plus.
impractical after a while. It's like too expensive, you just shut down the company and go somewhere else. Yeah, so
Yeah,
he can
plus.
teach. Yeah, continue, sorry.
Yeah, plus all these schemes that they are making, if it's not good for like individual people in our country, like it's not good ultimately. And
Yeah,
then uh, I wanted to say something but nimesahau. Oh,
it's
I
okay.
wanted to talk about kwa hivyo awache kelele afocus na economy ya Kenya, because I was
Yes.
thinking,
And we don't
because
need to see him every day on the news launching something, because
I
honestly, I
know.
am very disinterested in him launching a thing that doesn't affect. Like yesterday, you remember that e-citizen launch that he did?
Mm, yeah,
The,
the
it was
digital
like,
market service. Yeah.
yeah, it has all these different things, but there are people who obviously went, they opened e-citizen to look at all the 5,000 services that had been added, and it's just
Mhm.
links to old government websites.
Really?
Yes.
So, there's one content piece I saw on your page about Gashagua telling graduates that they should thrive as entrepreneurs. That is so funny.
Yeah.
But I was like they should focus on like at least reducing government regulations and all these money that you have to pay so that people can actually thrive as small businesses. So, what do you think about like education sector? Well, first of all, where did you go to school?
Um, I went to school a bunch of different places because I grew up in like Kilifi, Mombasa, um,
Oh.
Eldoret. I went to school in Eldoret in high school. I went to school in Kakamega when I was growing up, like because we moved around a lot. So I went to school in a bunch of different
Mm.
places. But
Mm-hmm.
to uni, I went to KU, Kenyatta
Oh.
University alum. Yeah, and
Uh-huh.
at the time I was growing up, it's just like there's that transition. You go to primary school, you go to high school, you hope you do well in KCSE, you get into a good uni. But now the education system is changing, right?
Yes, very much so.
Where, sorry, a lot of the education systems that were available in the past are now not available to people right now because they're focusing a lot more on like technical institutes, which is a good thing,
Mm.
but they're not even like following up the manufacturing or like industrialization of the country, so that if you're going to a TUK or whatever, you have a direct pipeline to a job, right?
Mm.
We don't have those measures in place. So, and now even the CBC curriculum, it's not like 844. 844 was it's very academic based. Like if you're
Mm.
good, you
Mm.
get an A, you're set for life, right? But
Yeah, I
if
did
you
it for
fail,
four. Mm.
yeah, if you fail, it's like some people were made to feel like they don't have a future.
Mm.
But then if you probably had like a good like either good family structure, or like there were resources in your family to take you to like a technical institute or like an apprenticeship, you just figured it out as you went along, right?
Yes.
The CBC curriculum is supposed to give people skills from the onset. But now it's not practical in the long run because they have not even figured out the curriculum as it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Imagine teachers are
It's
showing
been
up to
chaos.
class and they don't know.
What to do?
Yeah,
I've been seeing that. It's
yeah, there
chaos.
are people who've had to leave
But
their jobs because it doesn't make any sense to them. And it's something
mm,
they've trained for. So it's just becoming harder over the course of time because there's no structure, there's no strategy, there's no
mm.
funding. Yeah.
Like there's so much that needs to be done within the country, and then he's just out there taking all these trips and whatever.
Yeah,
So
and I'm like,
me mm, so
Auntie.
I went to uni, but I went for 2 semesters, and I was like, okay, I was studying University of Embu
Mm-hmm,
criminology, and I was like, there's no way I am going to get a job with doing this degree
mm-hmm.
in and it's a new university, so it's not well known. So you can imagine me competing with like someone who's gone to like maybe University of Nairobi and they're doing the same course. Obviously,
Mm,
like
mm-hmm,
there's no way that I was going to get a job through that route. So nikaacha hiyo. What did you study for, in case kuna mtu hapa alinasomea the same thing and they like want to feel relatable with you.
okay, I'm just gonna like let's take a pause here and ask was the course like good, but or did you feel like the teaching wasn't just getting you what you thought you wanted?
Okay, so the course was, I don't know what to say. It was, I thought that the studies that I was going to go to study in uni were bigger than what we're actually studying. Like
Oh.
we had like sometimes we'd have 3 classes a week, and then the teachers, they
Mm.
don't really know what they're teaching because I think it's a new university. They are doing new stuff. They don't know. Plus, I was like, you know, criminology is like a little bit of psychology. And I was like, I think I can just buy a book and like read, and then I'll have this information.
Mm.
Plus, when I looked at like 4 years is a long time. Sometimes
Yeah.
some courses you don't need to 4 years. Like you can do these things in like 2 years, in like 1.5 years. So I was like, 4 years, no way. And then I was looking at like the people who have finished up to fourth year na wako tu huko, they are just roaming, yani wako tu wana float. And so I was like, hey, mimi in 4 years I'll be where this person is. And I'm like, you know
Mm.
what? Plus, plus I'm not like the type of person who wanted like a job and whatever. I wanted to like get into the creative space and
Yeah.
all that. So yeah, it was not really my path, but I don't know. Like
I
maybe
like
there's
that you
someone who
discovered. I like that you
yeah.
discovered
So
that that's
just
not your path because that's a very
mm,
strong sentiment going into anything because you don't want to just do the thing because you want to complete and have a paper
yeah.
with you. You want to make sure that it's actually adding value to your life and like power to you for like
Yes.
realizing that enough like in good time. Like that's
Yeah.
usually very rare because some people have that discovery and they're like, okay, I'll just keep going.
Mm. But it was difficult. You know, you
Mm.
cannot telling your
Mm.
parent that, you know what, I don't want to
Yeah.
continue
How was
studying.
that
And you know,
like?
my parents, it was so difficult. My parents, Kwanzaa, they are the type of people who didn't go to uni. So they
Oh,
would want me to go the extra mile and
yeah.
like be more than they are.
Mm.
So at the time, actually, I wanted to stop at first semester when I got there, and I was like looking around, I'm like, ay, apana. But then after first semester, my dad died. So I was like, I cannot do this to my mother first semester. Let me just go back second semester. But then
Mhm.
I was like, there's no need to like lie to myself. And then because I hear a lot of people who go like the whole 4 years, wanatumiwa pesa and then they eat it, they
Wanakula,
do
yeah.
and alafu na imagine as a parent after 4 years you realize your child was not even studying, like that is so bad. So I was like, and then or you just study but then you become resentful to the parent because you're doing something that you
Mm.
don't want. So I was like, let me just go through this fire and tell her straight up, like, I am not going to go back. She was
Mm.
angry. She didn't talk to me like for a while, but then actually nilimwambia, sikumwambia immediately
Yeah.
after second semester. There was an online job I was doing, so nikahamanga nikakuja nai, and then I stayed there for a while, nikarudi home. So when it's time to go back for second year, she's like, why are you not going back? That's when I told her that I don't want to go. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was,
But I
hey,
can
it was
imagine
hard.
that's like a very difficult
Hard.
process, especially if your
It's
parents
hard.
wanted like something for you.
Mm, it's
Yeah.
hard. It's difficult.
Yeah,
But
but like you figured it out, which that's
yeah.
really good. Like you didn't hold, but you didn't lie to her either. You didn't lie to your mom
Mm,
and be like, "Oh, yeah, I'll go back," and then just pretend. You didn't do that,
mm,
which I think she'll appreciate in some way that she allowed you to come to her and tell her the truth. So that's,
yeah.
I think that's really honorable because most people are I went to school with people who are just lying to their parents. But yeah, I I I was do the right thing kind of child. You know, it's like just
Mm,
go to school, put your head down and just like complete whatever course it is you're doing. But I think after high school, I didn't. So I wanted to study film. See,
mm,
when you're selecting like the courses, I put film and I put art. I was lucky I got into art school. But then, like, to change into like the whole film process, I was like, I don't want to do that work. But I had extra classes in film and I had all these
mm,
friends. So I still got to learn stuff about what I wanted. So I did fine
mm,
art. I did a lot of drawing. I wasn't the best in that class. I was good. I just wasn't the
mm,
best. So
uh, uh,
there's a time I wanted to quit because again the same thing, like I had passions in other things. I wanted to be a dancer. I
mm,
was like, oh, I'm gonna
mm,
quit. And then my brother was like, you only have like a couple of years left, just finish and then you can
mm,
do what you want.
mm,
And that do the right thing was very ingrained in me. So I
mm,
completed school, which was fun for me because I got a job right after, and then it just
uh-huh,
didn't work out. You know, like those things where you feel like if you get a job, if you put your head down, keep working, you're
mm,
gonna just climb the corporate ladder pole pole. But it didn't
mm,
work.
mm,
And so I quit that job and I've been doing comedy ever since, which is like a ridiculous thing to say out loud. But
mhm,
truthfully, if I hadn't found comedy, I don't know what I would have been doing right now. Because it's very challenging. You have to get up every day and actually put in the work. You have to research, you have to read, you have to, like,
mm,
technically, I meet people sometimes who watch my work and they're like, are you a journalist? And I'm like, no, I just like to read and I like to
mm,
make jokes. That's mostly
mhm.
it.
That's mostly it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm. So being in art school made me appreciate that kind of, like, there's no one to help you. Like, if you're not really good at something, you have to keep sketching. You have to keep putting in the
Keep
work until you get there. Yeah.
Yeah, keep expanding. Plus,
Hmm.
I feel like it's a good thing you finish because you know you are in like Nairobi. It's a place where you can explore with other things. But you see, like me, nilikuwa Embu, University of
Hmm.
Embu. Embu is a small town, so like for me,
Mm.
I'm interested in like drama and stuff. So when you're there, you're stuck because there's no
They
that
didn't have an art scene.
entertainment there exactly. So it's like this is the wrong environment for me. If I stay here for 4 years,
Mhm.
I will even forget myself because there's
Oh.
no these other spaces that I can go to. I think that's one of the reasons that made me be like, you know what? Mm-mm. Okay, so what were we talking about? Back to let's finish e-topic, yeah, government.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think? What are some of the things that you think should be done within the government, at least so that like lives in Kenya can improve? We can have like, affordable and good education and well structured, affordable housing, food, where people live with dignity, like, at least where there's like enough roads everywhere, in electricity in places, good schools in places. What are the things that you think the government should be focusing on right now?
I think that's a very heavy question. If I had an answer like this, I would literally just like write the proposal and send it to State House, marked like for immediate like
Mm,
reading. But what I'll say, for us to get to that point, we have to
mhm,
be aware of like the practical solutions that can be done. So during
mm,
Kibaki's time, when he
mhm,
got into power, he realized a lot of the institutions, the way they were set up to serve like only rich people or like white people, people who have money, right?
mm,
So he worked to dismantle those institutions. He made banking a little more easier, right? He expanded roads. He got small businesses cheaper loans so that they could literally expand their businesses if they want to. He made it easier for people who wanted to do business here to like set up shop. And there's a company called, I think, East African Cables, if I'm not wrong, where they had like certain measures in place where they reduced the cost of electricity for them to help like with the
mm,
manufacturing process and everything. So you see, it's like the little things you do for the everyday people who really need it that actually makes that change. So you feel
mm.
like if I empower 10 people who have the resources, there's like 30 other people in their network. Out of those 30
Yeah.
other people, maybe they have kids they'll be able to educate. So it kind of spreads out,
Mm.
right? So it's not like one person has to do everything. It's one person making sure 10 people can do more things.
Many
And then those
things.
10 people can expand. So in this government right now, like digital economy is like a whole different landscape, right?
Mm,
They could
mm,
talk to different creatives in different areas, maybe help them set up like theaters and like like places for live performances that are subsidized, where you don't have to pay ridiculous amounts of money to put on shows. That way you can employ people doing camera work, people like the editors, the creatives who get
mm.
to perform. So you see all these people can get into these businesses that they want because they don't have to pay ridiculous amounts of money. I think Sakaja has found a way to do that. He's expanded like social halls in some parts of Kasarani where
Mm,
people don't have to pay if they're like doing a show or something, which is really cool. So
yeah.
it's like the county government is taking care of like a public resource.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
for children who are going to school, like feeding them is a big deal. So even like that dish in
Yeah.
a county, as much as it's like a very funny thing because it was someone's idea that they just jumped on, that's
Mm-hmm.
important to like power
Mm,
with stuff like that that helps kids going to school. But then you
yeah.
can't just feed kids if they don't have like proper classrooms, if they don't have teachers in there. So
Mm,
you get like it has to be, the government has to be a little more aware of how do they take care of teachers, how do they take care of like public schools, how are they funding them, instead of like paying um, government officials do a 14% raise. Those
mm.
people
I
because you want to help them with the cost of living,
I know.
use
I
that
saw that
money.
and I was like,
Hey,
eh.
use that
Mm,
money to help fund schools, release the money, because
mm,
like the education CS promised sijui 28 billion will be released to them, and they had to wait I don't know how many weeks. So some teachers were like, we're not going to class if we don't have books,
oh,
because what are we going
mm,
to do? So there's
mm,
this whole thing where if you're going to fund something, if you're going to make sure people are setting up manufacturing or whatever, there has to be protections in place so that they're not spending all their money trying to just keep these jobs for the people that are there.
mm,
It has to be
mm,
like, okay, electricity has gone down. Yeah, maybe five more people can get employed.
mm,
We've expanded, like maybe reduce the cost of water so these people can earn a little more when they work, because instead of the company paying more for water, that money maybe goes to like employees pockets, right? And
yeah,
then they can take
yes.
care of their children. And when it comes to housing and sanitation or like those important things, I feel like that's not the onus of the president. Maybe like governors themselves can fight a little more to make sure people who live in urban areas, like they can even make sure they have like bylaws where like every area is governed by a certain set of bylaws. Like you make sure there's pick up and drop off of trash is a certain day. If someone throws trash in the like drainages or whatever, they have to shut down their businesses, they have to pay their fine. You get, so people become a
Yeah.
little more vigilant in taking care of the environment. So by you pushing those laws and like making sure there are people implementing them, it gets to a point where even if your place is not wealthy or it has all these expensive looking houses, like you can have like cheap homes but it's clean, the water is good, it's clean, the environment is fresh, and also there has to be like a minimum green coverage. I think there has to be where a lot of urban areas, I don't know if you maybe look around Nakuru and you see, but like Nakuru is very well done, where like there's always trees, people are not in the sun getting burnt all the time.
Yeah,
In
but
Nairobi,
it's not like everywhere. You know, we have these places like the slums, like people who
mm,
are places, yeah, the poor people live.
disenfranchised, yes.
Yes, it's
So I
not
think
deep,
there
it's
has to
still
be
dirty.
there has to be like a push for like green coverage, like every estate. So there's an article I was reading some time back. The places in New York that used to experience like heat, I don't know what it's called. It's like the ground becomes very hot. So people can't walk outside because they feel like
Oh,
they'll pass
whoa.
out. Yeah.
Huh.
So there's this initiative that they did in a neighborhood in Harlem and like Brooklyn, and so like poor neighborhoods, they would get like trees. They're in bags, yeah, because they can't really plant them on the sidewalk because of the drainage. They have to get all these permits and everything. So it get like really huge bags with trees, and like they'd connect the bags together. So it's like the trees feed off each other and they grow taller and
Wow.
they prevent like the heat from like getting to the
Okay.
people. So like when you're walking down that street, you feel like there's a cooling effect because the tree is absorbing all that heat.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Yes, girl, you have ideas.
So
You're
there's
very nice.
there's always a way to fix it, and I'm sure there's always people who have very amazing ideas that can be incorporated into the daily lives of people. But there also has to be like your MCA, whoever's in charge, there has to be goodwill. Where it's like if you approach them with a solution, they're not fighting you. They're not like, oh, who has money to do that? It's like, okay, we have Nani and Nani. How do we get there? Because there's always even private companies or people with a little more money to spare who are willing to do that for the neighborhood because they get tax write-offs. Yeah.
Okay, so as a person who is watching this and like you're just a normal citizen, but at this point, I feel like we have a crisis with authority. People don't believe in the government anymore. We are doubting these institutions, with this education sector. Like, what can I do as just a normal citizen who pays their taxes but is very concerned, a concerned Kenyan who is like concerned about cost of living and everything? Like, what are just a few things that you feel like people should engage in more so that they can contribute to make things better in this country?
Okay, I'll say the first thing. First of all, even with the Finance Bill 23, when like everyone's talking about the housing levy, everyone was going like, we can't pay all this like huge sums of money to the government when we know like you guys have not been accountable in the past. That was public participation. People saying no to a thing that was really good. So you see that momentum where people are engaged on a daily about things that affect them, that could apply in everyday life. So there are things called town halls where your representatives of the place, like your MP, your MCA, your women rep, all these people in government have to hear people who live in that area about things that affect them and what they feel like the solutions are. The issue we have right now is it's very hard to do a town hall because most people in authority are trying to pander to people who have more money than them, or like they're trying to
Mm-hmm.
pander to their party to get
Mm-hmm.
elected in a different position. So they're not really thinking about us. So I think if we could, there could be a little more appeal for like public participation, where even if it's just like twice every 2 months or something, once a month or something, where it's like, okay, you told us this and this was supposed to happen between now and August. You haven't achieved this and this. What happened? Like there's some accountability of sorts, where
Mm-hmm.
people in power are a little more afraid
Mm-hmm.
of like you, because you're the voter, you're the person who lives there. You
Yeah.
find there are MPs who, when they get money, they go live in Karen. Their citizens live somewhere else. So
Yeah.
if someone is in a wealthy neighborhood, their lifestyle is different. They don't get to interact with certain problems. It's like they don't see you. But if there
Mm.
was a requirement, if you're an MP, if you're an MCA, if you're a women rep or whatever, you need to live in the neighborhood that voted for you, you would see
Mm.
changes.
Mm. Yeah, so guys, if you're listening, make sure you get involved with whatever is happening around you. Like people, because like this finance bill was good, but normally I feel like people are so
Disconnected.
passive.
Mm,
Yeah. You're like, there's usually some issues that are happening, and I'm like, why are people not like involved in these?
mm.
But maybe kitawaramba. So
Yeah.
so that aside, now you're a stand-up comedian. Now me, I
Mm.
love comedians so much because I cannot make a joke to save my life. Like
You can. I
I
believe
don't know,
you
is
can.
this is it something that someone can learn? Polo 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 at least.
Yeah,
Really?
you can. I think for the most part, to be a comedian, you have to believe you're funny. So if you don't believe you're funny, it's
Funny.
gonna take some work to get you there. But I think everyone can make, because if there's something that makes you laugh and you're very observant, you can
Mhm.
obviously find a way to make a joke about it.
So I should change my mindset.
Yes. Have a little more fun and like don't be like, oh, I have to depend on someone else's sense of humor. You can do it. I believe in you.
So how has it been for you? So but then I was looking at your videos, and there's one session you're talking about how you, and but then hata umesema like it didn't work out with your job. So I'm assuming that what you do is comedy. So how has it been for you?
It's just like any other job. I'll
Mm-hmm.
say. It's just like for me, the good part is like I get to be creative and have fun.
Uh,
Most
mm,
people's jobs don't have the same the same vibe,
yeah.
you know. So
Mm,
I got very lucky that I get to work in this creative space. Um but again, like from something I said earlier, you have to keep working to be better.
working. Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep
Because yeah, the joke
expanding.
could have worked, and sometimes when you're a comedian, when you stand up there and you're like making all these jokes, like you're trying to make people laugh, there's times where it just doesn't
The joke doesn't land.
it doesn't land, and there's nothing you can do in that moment. You're like, you figure out the next joke so that the entire performance doesn't go to waste. But yeah,
Mm,
it's very humbling, where when you have a good day on the job, that's literally your last good day.
mm,
You're like, the next you don't know, because you there's a thing that's said in comedy where you're just as good as your last performance.
mm.
Yeah, because you can't carry the laughs of your last performance to a new
To
venue.
the
You can't
next
do that.
one. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. So you have to
Hmm.
come up with something. Oh, that's a lot of work. And
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, plus I feel like comedians are so bold, like to stand in front of live people who are there and they're going to react. You don't know how they're going to react when you're on stage. Hey, that is just another level of being phenomenal. So
Thank you.
I saw that you went to like, is it Ghana and like where was it? Zimbabwe.
Yeah, I've been to Ghana. I went there for something else, but then um I went for like it was like a journalist meet. I was very lucky to like be selected for like some workshop that we did. I had all these
Mhm.
amazing journalists around me. Like those are people who do phenomenal work. May just do jokes.
Mhm.
But like I was learning like a lot from them, how they do like investigative series, because that's something that I would like to do a lot more.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, so I was there. I was like, okay, I'm gonna find a room where I can do comedy, because there's
Oh,
always someone in town who has a room where I can do comedy. So I hit up one
really?
of my friends. They're
Mhm.
like, oh, I have this contact. Maybe you can tell them you're around. See if they can give you stage time. So that's how I got to perform in Ghana. In Harare, we were working on like a satire show. Um, it's called, yeah, the network is called Magamba Network. So we had like some work to write and like to shoot something, so we went there for that. And I also got to
Oh,
perform some comedy there.
oh,
And then
okay.
yeah, and I also went to South Africa, but that one was purely for comedy. But
Oh, wow.
it went
Hey.
horribly because I wasn't able to make the in time for my performance, but I still got to perform at other
Oh,
places. Yeah, yeah,
oh.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I've never been outside my country.
You will leave. If it's something you want to do, imagine you put it out in the universe finds a way to get
Oh,
it to
but,
you.
yes, I
Yes,
put
you
it
got
out in the
this.
universe.
Yes,
I want to go somewhere else, please.
yes. Just
Okay,
put
so
it down like an
hmm,
exact location. The more specific
uh,
it is, the better. The
the
universe will find a way to get you there. Yeah.
so yeah, because
Mm.
they'll understand exactly what I
Yeah,
want. Yeah, universe. I
exactly.
want to go to South Africa. So
Yes.
anyway, I also saw that you and your friends wrote and shot a rom-com. Tell me
Yeah.
about that.
Yes, we did. That was one of my favorite experiences because we shot it last year. I
Okay,
think
first
in
of all,
December. Mm.
for the people who don't know what a rom-com is,
Mhm.
tell us.
Oh, a rom com is a romantic comedy. It's like a
Oh,
short,
wow.
not a short. It's like a a comedy that where the love thing is like the
Mm-hmm.
center point. Yeah.
Oh,
So
uh-huh.
me and my friend called Shiko have always wanted to. Shiko is also a comedian. We've always wanted to do rom-coms. Like we're those people where, oh, we love rom-coms, we want to do one, but we didn't
Mm-hmm.
want to do like a cliche one where it's just like, oh, people meet, they fall in love and it's so beautiful. We were like, okay, what's like an interesting point we can counter? So one time when we were at an open mic, like the comedy performances we were at, we were just talking
Mm-hmm.
about like what do we want a rom-com to be about. We wrote the whole thing, like the idea in like less than 15 minutes. And we were like, yeah,
Oh.
yeah, yeah. Let's script the whole thing. So scripting took us a while. It took us like 3-4 weeks because we had to get like our friend called George. He's also
Mm-hmm.
a comedian for like a male perspective. Because if it's us writing, we
Oh,
felt like we're just gonna write gully things that are not
things.
realistic.
Mm.
So we got our friend for like the male perspective, and he's so understanding. He was like, yeah, 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 let's do it. And so Shiko and George, both who wrote on it, also starred in the movie, which was really
Mm-hmm.
fun because I don't think they've ever acted on that scale before. Yeah,
Uh,
but it was like really awesome to like witness, and like we had a bunch of friends help with like the shooting and the direction. It was just
everything.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was
Lovely.
so fun. I
Where
hope
can
anyone like watching this will get to watch the rom com. Like, oh, it's one of
where
the best things I've ever done.
where can we get it? Where can we go and watch it?
Oh, it's on YouTube. You'll just find influenced movie. I think that's what it's called, influenced movie.
Influenced movie.
Yes.
Yeah. Meskia, we are going to watch it. Okay, so now I had told you we're going to do for 45 minutes and it's
Yeah.
almost 50 minutes now. Let's
Yeah.
do the closing remarks thing. Yeah.
What are the closing remarks? That sounds like I need to say something important and inspire Pan Africanism like the president. No. Um, I'll just I'll say if you're out there and you really love the work that you do, in whatever scale it is, just like keep fighting for yourself, because the world doesn't usually gift things to us, right? But
You
if
have
you're
to
still
earn it.
fighting, yeah, if you're still fighting, it means there's something precious that you're putting there that you feel has um is important to be present in that moment in time that you exist. So if you're fighting for, like, just keep going, even in your lowest moments, in your happiest moments, all of it matters. Like, just keep going. Yeah.
Oh
And like,
wow.
find a way to
Yeah.
laugh too. The world can be very difficult, so find a way to laugh.
Mm.
Yeah, I think
That
that's
is
what I'll say.
amazing. I
Mm.
think that is a really strong closing remarks. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Yeah, it's so this is has been a really, really nice conversation. You're so it's so good to talk to you. Like you're very it's in a
Thank
flow
you so
too.
much.
I'm
Thank
so
you very
happy
much.
to have done this.
You also ask like really engaging questions. You're not like just, oh, so tell me about yourself. You didn't do that, which
Oh
usually
no.
kind of, you asked very specific questions, and like you engage with me on a level of like my work and like the stuff that other people are affected with, and that really goes to my heart because it's so good. So thank you for that. Yeah.
This is nice. I hope we get to do this some other time in the future.
Yeah, just tell me
Yeah.
when. I got a little worried there because like the link wasn't opening. I was like, okay,
Oh,
if we're getting into a technical issue, we can reschedule. I have no problem. Yeah.
I was like, no way, we have to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But like,
so
yeah.
you guys,
No,
so
it's okay.
you guys, you have to follow her page, Fake Work with Justine, on all social media platforms. You will not regret it. You're going to be looking forward to every piece that she's doing. So yeah, this has been nice. Bye.
Bye.
See you. Bye bye. Mm.
Okay. So